Dear African martial artists, because of your lack of action on this issue, which I do not blame you for, I've decided to make things 100% clear. In the name of ancestors and God, and our beloved Ebo, first son from the Obi, the temple that he lived in, that represented our philosophy and our culture. That's why the first picture you see is a European depiction, a Greco-roman depiction of Anubis with the scales. And instead of using the feather from the Temple of Horus, he's using a snake-like object, perhaps a baby snake, considering the future of white children, perhaps comes to mind. And you see it zoomed in here at 1 minute. Take a good look. Now first, let me talk about the Hellenization and the Greco-Roman perspective, which is what America is, right? It's the new Greco-Roman perspective of Egypt, the new Egypt from the cults, okay? For example, the bust of Serapis. Eventually in Egypt, the Hellenic pharaohs decided to produce a deity that would be acceptable to both the local Egyptian population and the influx of Hellenic visitors, to bring the two groups together rather than allow a source of rebellion to grow. Thus, Osiris was identified explicitly with Apis, while really an aspect of Ptah, who had already been identified as Osiris by this point, and a syncretism of the two was created, known as Serapis, and depicted as a standard Greek god. Now we know over time Serapis took on elements of Hades as syncretism took place, and we see androgynous Baphomets, and for the same reason you have the dual gender Baphomet, the Greco-Roman, a dual perspective, a three perspective, Viking, a Greco-Roman perspective, the bull, the wolf, the serpent. The Greeks, worshipped, twisted the scripture. They watered down the scripture to keep the peace, right? It's right there, mainstream history, rather than allow a source of rebellion. So again, the pictures you're going to see here at about 2 minutes, 30 seconds, you see Osiris. He has the ram head at the base, okay, not at the top, which you saw on the beginning picture. It was at the top. But Osiris is supposed to have the ram head at the base. And this is important. We'll get into that in a moment. It has to do with his soul, his Ba, and his son Horus, and the tomb of Remheb in the you see during the 22nd dynasty. I believe. I'll put in the comments if I'm mistaken. All right, so we go on. Destruction of the cult. The cult of Osiris continued until the 6th century AD on the island of Philae in Upper Nile. The Theodosian decrees of the 390s to destroy all pagan temples were not enforced there. So Theodosius had decrees in the 390s, and they were to destroy all pagan temples, but the ones in the Upper Nile were not destroyed. Now, why is that? Why did he spare the Greco-Roman perspective of things, and why did he destroy the blacker parts of the Nile, the lower Nile? Remember, there's a difference between the Upper Nile and Upper Egypt. You see how they're confusing you with that? You see that wordplay? The Upper Nile, which is actually Northern Egypt and Lower Egypt. So they destroyed the black perspective and kept the Greco-Roman perspective. And I'm bringing the true gospel from the heart, because we united the land from the lower part of Egypt. The worship of Isis and Osiris was allowed to continue at Philae until the time of Justinian I, by treaty between the Ptolemies, Nobadae, and Diocletian. Every year they visit Elephantine, and at certain intervals took the image of Isis upriver to the land of the Ptolemies for oracular purposes. The practices ended when Justinian sent Narses to destroy sanctuaries, arrest priests, and seize divine images which were taken to Constantinople. The same thing happened during the age of quote-unquote enlightenment. Okay, where you see the clergy being killed, priests arrested, and things are being altered. So you have the Protestant Reformation going on, and then you have this Reformation of the Reformation going on from within, and you have these different churches starting to spring up at some point. Okay, and that's long. If you want to get into the details, fine. I think the idea is more important, and to fill in the details more and more as time goes on is the idea. It's kind of like tracing a picture and then you paint it, right? Kind of like that idea. Or drawing it and then painting it. All right. So when you look at this thing, or shading it in later, what basically happened? Well, Osiris, out of love, was carried by Isis, okay, who was a helper. His phallic symbol, his penis, was carried. The 3 points are Isis, or Osiris, his penis, and Osiris. The person who drew the lines was Isis. The person who connected the dots was Isis. She was a suitable helper like Eve in the Bible. And thus, the children of Horus were born like mankind was created in the Bible. In the Garden of Eden, which certainly had to be lower in Africa because of desertification. The same reason you have a split between the Zulus and the Igbos. You know, one of them went south, and they're more related to the pharaohs, and one went toward eastern Nigeria. It's eastern, not western, eastern Nigeria. Okay, not that far away from southern Egypt and Nubia and Sudan when you draw the appropriate line. One way to look at it is the right angle is supposed to represent the connection between Osiris and man, not pointing down to the abyss and Apep and man. Okay, so Osiris, Ra, the light temple in heaven, in the sky, and man. So you draw the 90-degree angle, like you get the love energy, the higher vibration from Osiris. You don't try to stay in the middle like the Romans would have you do, or you don't try to stay in the abyss as the more violent Vikings would have you do, but you think in the higher vibrational state of chi energy, ki, ka, and ba, which represents the spirit of Osiris or the spirit of God. So for the Asian man to deny that there is a God will always make it so he has inferior martial arts, because I get my intense African energy from the tribe of Judah, Osiris, and my people before me, and I know that it is true. And so I live in reality while they are wearing a blindfold, not seeing the black man in front of them, which is the works of Osiris, the proof of his existence in the past. The proof of the Scorpion King is in the pudding. The proof is in the helix. It is in the DNA. It is in the genetic code. Okay, we talk about speaking code and communication. We talk about body language, mind, body, soul, spiritual communication, communicating with your mind. You know, oh, telepathy. Oh, I read your mind. You know, and the soul. So on certain levels, these things exist. But on the highest levels, only in the heavens do they truly exist. They are not done on earth. And the people who want you to believe they can deal in trickery and witchcraft. They know enough to know that these things exist and to kind of put ideas in your head that it's possible for them to do them. But they cannot do them. These things can only be done in the spirit world. All right, so when you look at this connection again also as well, you must concede that the reason why they put the ram head above is to, and you have the ram laying down, right? He's in a prone, almost sphinx position, you know, when you see him in the statues in Egypt, okay? You're forced to see, hey, what's the difference between the ram being revered for its beastly qualities and the ram submissive, you know, waiting for its role to bring Osiris's spirit to Horus. So their representation is, you are going to judge the souls of man based on the serpent's perspective of how the ram should be viewed. Okay? That is why you have the serpent around the scales of justice. Okay? The scales, the scaly creature, right? And you have, again, this is the Latin language, remember, communication. And then you have Anubis, who is fair. Anubis just does according to Ma'at. But if you replace him with a serpent, he will weigh, things will be weighed in a way it is consistent with the great serpent Apep, Apophis, okay, Apollo, ape, beast, the beastly nature of man, versus the higher nature of man, natural deism, okay? Natural deism from a Greco-roman secret society, that started in England, okay, with a Greco-roman or Pythagorean, Socrates, Greek-Roman perspective, building temples in Greeks and Rome, and the perspective of the architecture and its meaning from a Greco-Roman Western lens. And then the Vikings came in, they married, when they started taking over and forcing people to do things their way in the church and the state, they took over. And they say, let's separate church and state. Who cares? We control both sides. That's how we like to do it anyway. So you have the serpent, the pig, the rat, the maggot, the worm, the wolf, the bull, or the bull covering the light, the apis, the Greco-Roman perspective, right? Fix your perspective. Adjust your lens. Be consistent with God. Find yourself. Don't let the bull create you. Don't recreate yourself. Be who you are meant to be. Don't reinvent yourself. God created you. Don't let the devil be the creator, mind, body, and soul. Don't let the devil build your temple from his perspective. Don't adopt his perspective. Don't see it through his lens. Or when I look into your eyes, which are the window of the soul, I will see him, and I will say, begone, serpent. I know my sheep, because I am of Judah. I'm sorry if I talk too fast. I try to say things in a way that you can all understand. Let's see. So when we talk about Elephantine, this is key. There's many a black person who spoke with passion about Elephantine Island. I give them shouts out. Shout out to all the people who told the truth about it and who are consistent with the ancestors. I don't like all these gay secret societies, these Greco-Roman pedestry. When they see the phallic symbol of Osiris and they see the sun, they connected it to, they believed it was the same as the Greeks in their culture of going to little boys, okay? That's not, I promise you, that's not what it means. It means Osiris died and his son, his wife was pregnant and his spirit survived through his wife. Okay, it's like the semen from the penis, the spirit, the holy juice, the water survived, in her belly. And here comes the Avenger. And this is why during the Civil War they cut off the nipples of and the breasts of the nursing mothers, and why the babies were killed, and they were forcing Igbos to dance and to say things according to the Masonic international financiers agenda that the House of Fulani oligarchy was pushing, and that is part of why they were supported by the enemies of God. And now you see why I cannot be the friend of Masons or any other serpent Apep dogs that turn my Muslim brothers against me, and I must consider who is truly responsible, the underlying cause, the serpent under the bull. I must remove the bull and say, begone with your bull. You know where you can go with your Greco-Roman Viking bull, and I must show you the truth. And also show you the difference between man and Apep, the difference between Moses' staff and philosophy and vibrational energy and love and state, and that of the snakes who tried to snake him out of his rightful place, which is part of the tale of the temple war of light and dark in Egypt. And it plays out with, you see, with Abraham and Moses and Joseph and so on, and Joshua, inspired by this righteous Afro-Asiatic energy. So where did the Jews get the Asiatic part from? Well, when they left Africa black as hell and they started taking wives from the different tribes, there you go. Okay? Respect my staff, respect my bloodline, and have sex with the children of Judah who think like me, or you are my enemy, ladies. Watch this video again if you don't understand it. You corporate Apep slicking whore. You have snakes licking your vagina while you're playing with snakes in secret societies, and you're playing with pythons and stuff on Tinder. Okay, you are detestable. You are my enemies. And if one of you snakes could beat the Skywalker, you would have united the land. For the same reason you snakes did not unite the land, you cowards, is the same reason you cannot beat me at my challenge, which shows true skills, and I'll put it in the comments. Because I am a Saura, not the seed of the devil, the serpent, or Apep. Thank you.
To make a long story short, out here, we smite Apeps all the time.
To all good women out there, I want you to ask yourselves, what's the difference between a good woman and a slut? And should a good man treat them the same? It has to do with their energy and their state of existence, their state of mind, state of soul, and their behavior and how the environment can shape the way they communicate who they are to you. So what you see is that I'm being poisoned by people who believe in using chemistry as a way of, for warfare, chemical warfare, biological warfare, eugenics, pharmaceuticals, genetic engineering, social engineering, biodemography, and things of this nature. So when you look at this thing, right, I have to go out early in the morning to get something to eat, which makes where I go predictable since I live in the middle of nowhere. It's hard for me to express what is going on, and that's part of why they want my videos off. They want me to be tortured in a way that no one can hear or feel inspired to protest. The same thing goes on in psych wards and prisons all across America. Look at the number of inmates on psych meds. It's like the belly of the beast, right? And they're soaking you in the beast's poison. Valproic acid, for example, and Depakote, a very commonly prescribed mood stabilizer, quote unquote, right? If you have an angry or agitated inmate, give him this eugenic pill. He's going to get all fucked up and he'll die quicker. He's less of a burden on the system. So whether it's the psych ward system or it is the prison system, that's how they view it. And it's sad that the inmates and the mental health people, patients, are so scared that very few of them will take my side, and the ones that do will be so drugged up that they'll come off as crazy, and they'll pay them to talk about reptilians and aliens and say Tupac is alive and stupid shit like that. Anyway, and things that are related, things that have grains of truth, right? For example, reptiles. These people worship Apep, right? So when I talk about Apep, it's stigmatized because Ike and other whites and secret societies and Roman cults have stigmatized the idea with their disinformation campaigns and their misdirection, which is part of the white man's illusion. So when you look at this Ikenga, right? This Ikenga, Chike, Ikenga, Chi energy, Chike, Ikenga, Chi, Chike, Ikenga, Ki, Chi. Okay? Chike was my uncle's name, for those of you who aren't new. You see that there's a very profound connection between the ram head at the base and the Ikenga living in the spirit of the ram from the Afro-Asiatic perspective versus the Greco-roman Hellenization and the amalgamation, the syncretism that took place to squash rebellions. So that's why you have the variations of the Ikenga with the variations of weapons, transferable skills through chi energy. This is the foundation of martial arts principles that are so ubiquitous and commonly found in Asian cultures and martial arts traditions. So therefore, one must go pay obeisance to the original Obi, who is my ancestors, and I most embody him, and no one can beat me because they haven't mastered timing and other transferable skills like technique that allow you to strike first. Everyone knows that if you had to choose between not being able to hit somebody and hitting somebody lightly, in battle you would choose lightly, right? Rather than not be able to hit him at all. Now, because if for nothing else, you can slow down the enemy while your side is killing the people rather than not interfere with them at all, right? So when you look at this thing, just logic alone says, well, that the emphasis has to be on striking first. Logic alone also shows you the technique, the torque you must use in order to get that strike in. The way your body movements, your footwork, your skywalking, the way you fly, the way you move, the way you soar, the graceful movements, your graceful execution. The reason why capoeiras have their hands to the side and their feet are in motion. They are the hawk in motion. Okay? The hawk in motion mixed with the cattle. The hawk that controls the cattle, headbutting the cattle. The hawk that flies around, the shepherd. And Osiris was the shepherd. Okay? He herded the other tribes together. So all your races who were present in Egypt, you had representatives who were present in Egypt, and people who traded with them present in Egypt, okay, learned martial arts from the Igbos who left in the Old Kingdom. That's why it's called the Old Kingdom, the middle kingdom, the new kingdom, because the old kingdom is the old black Africans from Neckin. I mean, this is a no-brainer. Therefore, you owe me obeisance, your women, an apology, and to stop doing what you're doing, or to admit that you are Apep scum. Bring your argument to the light. Stop slithering around in a hole and expect me to listen to your hissing in my ear. Come out in front of everybody and say your argument. If you wish to deny me my rightful place with you pussies, you maggots, rats, serpents, pigs, foul, detestable birds, bulls, wolves, you cannot rightfully and naturally take it from me. And I won't let you snake it from me in the dark. You come in the light with your argument. If you have any problem with my $17,000 that I've slapped you across your faces with super fucking hard in the spirit of Horus and light. Haru! So if by now you have come to the unavoidable conclusion that every female in a secret society is a slut who has been influenced by Greco-roman orgies, pedestry and pedophilia, and cultures where people use sex as a way to teach people the snake perspective of Egypt, join the club. They're all whores. On my ancestors, every female in a sex cult is either a whore themselves or desperately trying not to be a complete whore, but has whored themselves to Babylonian Greco-Roman bullshit, wolf, snake, serpent philosophy thing. Rothschild and the Masons, I'd be very careful if I were you with how many of my black sisters you use in your fertility rituals, because you're setting the stage for a bunch of Chukwuemeka type of motherfuckers wearing these shirts to be fucking your wife, getting head from your daughters. You bitch ass niggas. You want to fight with us for reproduction, you motherfuckers, you? Nigga, who you thought it was?
Who you niggas thought it was, though?
To make a long story short, this is how we won the war. It's already won, don't worry. Everything's already in place. We basically told them the truth, and we talked about how we smite Apeps and how they're a brood of vipers and so on. And they came out as a bunch of bitter, wolf-faced, bull-faced, and snake-faced niggas. Fuck them niggas! Fuck them niggas! Right? And, after they're being carried off like the dogs they are, you had a Chukwuemeka, Shaka Zulu kind of a Juku-looking nigga saying, who you niggas thought it was? The Falcon is back. Who you niggas thought it was? Who the fuck you niggas thought it was? Now, in all seriousness, this is hidden Amun behind the comedy. Shaka Zulu wanted his troops to encircle the enemy to be like a snake. A dragon that will grab the enemy and swallow him Apep style. And in order for us to escape, we must use principles of light. Resist, defy, transcend. And using the same motion as a sun punch, slice our way out with an Ikenga knife, symbolizing the true spirit of Osiris, the Ba, the Ka, the Ki, the Chi, Ke, Ikenga. Eri, Neri. Cut out, ancestors, get near me! Cut out in that sun punch form with an Ikenga blade instead of the sun punch. Step out in a bow stance, symbolizing firing a Nubian arrow. Turn around. As you turn around, do it oh so gracefully as a falcon turning around, and you slice the head off the snake in a leopard's ferocious state of mind. And then you restore the peace. Blessed are the peacekeepers who destroy Apep and keep the children from being dissolved by poison. I'm sorry for making this video so long, brothers, but only those of you who have hearts that beat in tune with mine and the Apeps who went out of their way pissed off to listen will get this far. That's the reason why I focus on the strikes that cover the distance and the most direct, as Bruce Lee said. That is one thing this Viper and the Hawk have in common, a direct path. The variations of the sun punch are like rays of light,
Imagine the sun rising behind you and you're shadow boxing. Where does the shadow? Why is there a shadow? Because the sun is hitting you. The sun temple. The rising sun of Biafra, the rising sun of the Japanese flag. The sun, the evil sun, the first sun, the sun temple. Not Lucifer's sun. Pray to God for direction. If you think that I am lying to you, brothers, pray to God and look for scripture, and do not let your race or your social agenda or your financial concerns cloud your judgment. Search your hearts, brothers, for the true light. Seek the kingdom of God. Don't believe anyone, not even the prophets, if your heart isn't in tune with what they say. Because even prophets can fall out of grace.
To make a long story short, out here, we smite Apeps all the time.